For more than a decade, this greenhouse was used for growing orchids. But last year, the company Up Cannabis took over. Now the facility just north of the Niagara Falls ships marijuana across Canada. In 2016, the Ontario-based firm became one of the country's first licensed medical marijuana producers. With recreational weed now legal in the country for people aged 18 and over, Up Cannabis's ambitions are getting higher.
So the main focus of the company right now is certainly on creating a very strong footprint here in Canada, which is the biggest legal market in the world.
The country's Cannabis Act fulfills a promise Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made in the 2015 campaign. It lifts 95 years of prohibition and makes Canada the second nation after Uruguay to legalize the drug.
By controlling and regulating the sale of cannabis, we can better protect our young people. The allies I spoke with are interested in seeing how things go, but I have a feeling they will wait to see how it goes in Canada before they try it themselves.
Weed may now be legal nationwide, but provinces are setting their own rules. In Ontario, people need to order online, while retail stores are now open in Newfoundland and Labrador. Customers there queued overnight to get into Tweed, which started selling at midnight.
I came out to be the first person in Canada to buy a legal gram of recreational cannabis.
The government says regulation will benefit the economy. It expects to make over $840 million a year by taxing tokers. According to Deloitte, marijuana sales could rise as high as $8.7 billion in the first year. That's equal to what Canadians spend on wine. Including growing and distribution, paraphernalia, and tourism, the research firm says the industry could be worth more than $22 billion a year. But the World Health Organization says these estimated economic benefits can act as a smokescreen to the real harm that marijuana use can cause.
I think any addictive, whether it's drug or substance, is not good for human health.
UN data suggests Canadians are already among the world's top marijuana users. According to the country's statistics office, 1 in 8 Canadians are estimated to have used the drug in some form last year, meaning many are feeling pretty dope. Paolo Montecillo, TRT World.
Well, let's get more on the story now from Chris Alexander in Toronto. He's Canada's former immigration minister and is now a consultant and entrepreneur. He's also on the board of a new Canadian cannabis company. Thank you so much for joining us on Money Talks. So, as I mentioned, you are now on the board of a new Canadian startup that hopes to produce cannabis. Previously, you've taken quite a cautious approach to the legalization of cannabis in your country. What do you think of it now?
Well, I think it is the right move to do away with the old status quo. We were wasting a lot of resources in our justice system, prosecuting people, convicting people for minor possession of cannabis. And now we're going to regulate use of this substance the way we do the use of tobacco and alcohol. And that's a better approach. There are benefits to using cannabis. The medical community is becoming alive to those for mental health, for pain reduction, for other forms of therapy. But there are also costs and potentially harmful consequences. But we can handle those through regulation. I think it's important to bring these substances out into the open. And to let people use them for the purposes that make sense and develop good habits when we find out that there are harmful effects as well, rather than making this a police issue or an issue for courts of law.
As much as this is a legal issue, a social issue, and obviously a health one, it's also very much a business one, isn't it? With cannabis companies already being valued in the billions, do you think this is the start of a lucrative industry for Canada?
It definitely is. I mean, some American states have taken steps towards legalization. Europe has been using cannabis in more legitimate ways, more open ways for decades. But we're the first national jurisdiction to take this step. It has a lot of support around the world. And as you say, the companies here now producing cannabis are already valued in the tens of billions of dollars. I think that gives us an advantage. It also lets us explore the recreational value of cannabis. I mean, the real competition here is not going to be with other still illegal drugs. It's going to be with tobacco. It's going to be with beer, wine, and other forms of alcohol to see which substance gives the best experience for consumers. And there's a lot of experimentation happening here, a lot of innovation happening here. I think that's to be welcomed.
Okay, as you say, some firms have been valued in the billions, even the tens of billions in some cases. But there is this fear that perhaps those companies are being overvalued, that it's overheated, that investors are perhaps getting a little too excited at the potential of this industry. Do you believe that excitement is justified, or are we seeing some bubble-like scenarios happening?
There are companies out there that will not meet expectations, and then there are others, I think, that will do very well. That's inevitable in a new industry. We see this sort of speculative interest in artificial intelligence, in many branches of technology, as well as cannabis and some other emerging sectors. So I think that's to be expected. No one can predict what the future will be, because today is the first day of legal use. About 5 million Canadians used cannabis last year. We don't know how many will use it this year, and how strong demand will be outside of Canada's borders. Although all the signs we're seeing from in the industry and outside the industry are very positive so far. It depends on research. There's a lot of work yet to be done on the health impact of cannabis. It hasn't been as heavily researched as tobacco. And that will continue. And then the medical benefits of cannabis have yet to be fully defined. I think there's a lot of interesting work happening on that around the world, as well as new products that will come on the market, beverages, as well as other safe edibles that may produce markets that weren't there last year.
And I would assume that many countries are looking at this experiment in Canada to see if they should follow suit. One of the draw cards of legalising the industry is the revenue that Canada might reap from this industry. Some value it at the hundreds of millions a year. Is that what you're predicting as well?
Absolutely. Federal government, provincial government in Canada will make money off of this sector because it's coming out of the black market, literally, and the criminal sector into the legitimate formal sector where it can be taxed and regulated. I think that's perhaps the best public benefit for this move, because it means that literally a very robust criminal sector, which was producing illegal cannabis and exporting illegal cannabis, will now be much smaller. And quite a few individuals, entrepreneurs, are making the move from the shadows into the light, as it were, and that's a good thing.
Yes, okay. Chris Alexander in Toronto, thank you so much for sharing your insights.